In this video, we're going to talk about the join and explode tools. So join and explode do opposite things of each other, and they are a little bit straightforward. So we're going to start off with the explode tool. So explode takes features that are grouped together or drawn with polyline or rectangle or polygon, and it separates them apart from each other. So I have a octagon here and a rectangle here. I drew these using the polygon and rectangle tools, so they all are one joined cohesive piece. However, if for some reason I wanted them to be recognized as separate lines, I can use the explode tool to separate them out. So the explode tool is located right up here, or keyboard shortcut X on your keyboard. Like move, copy, rotate, mirror, scale, much like those commands, it requires you to select your objects. So if I start the command, the first thing it's prompting me to do is select my objects, which I'll click on this rectangle, I'll hit enter, and it doesn't really seem like a lot happened, but I can see here in my command bar that it says I ran the command explode. It found one object to explode. Now if I hover over this rectangle, it's actually 4 separate lines, and the property bar is recognizing it as lines rather than one piece. And that's what explode does. So again, we can run it on something like this polygon here, and just like with move, copy, rotate, all of those, I can actually select my object beforehand and then run the command. This time I'll use the keyboard shortcut X, enter, and it actually kind of just goes through. So the command bar almost seems like nothing happened, but again, it exploded one object, and now this is separate lines. So I'll use explode if I have something where maybe it's going to have some of the features of this, but then I just want to take the lines over here and erase them and continue it on with other kind of lines to it. So maybe if there are parts or features of something that I drew with a polyline or the polygon tool, and I want to get rid of the other parts of it. The other important way of, or the other kind of important reason rather, for the explode tool, we're going to see in the next video where we go over arrays, so that this way we can take objects and deal with them separately. Again, too, we might see a nice use for explode with the hatch tool. So for instance, if I go into hatch and I just fill in my pattern here, I'll bump the scale up just so it's a little easier to see the line. So I'll make it like a 5 times scale. And then once I'm all done, I'll just click on close or hit escape. So because this is a hatch, these aren't recognized as individual lines. It's just kind of that full pattern. And if I click on them, it just brings me back into the hatch menu. But let's say I wanted them to be treated like individual lines. So this is where I could run the explode command. So if I do X, enter, click on my hatch, enter, now this is no longer a hatch. Now these are all considered individual lines. So if there were, a few of them that I wanted to window around and delete using the delete key on my keyboard, I could do that. So it comes in handy with arrays and occasionally on hatches when we need them. Now, if explode takes objects and separates them, the opposite effect would be the join tool. So here's the shape that I drew in the fillet practice. I drew it using the line tool, and then I went and filleted the corners. So each of these is considered a separate line or a separate drawing, or I guess piece of geometry rather, which might not be ideal for me. Maybe I want it all to be one piece. And so for that, I could use join. Now, join is a little difficult to find button-wise. It's actually if you click on the word modify, The join button is here, I believe. Yes. So it's a little bit hidden in the toolbar, but it's also keyboard shortcut J. So with the join command, just like with a lot of our modify commands, it wants us to select the objects we want to join. So I'll just click on, these pieces, or I'll even just window around them, hit enter, and like explode, it's a little anticlimactic, doesn't seem like much happened, but now it took these and it made them all into one piece. Just like with explode and a lot of our modify commands too, we can highlight all of our object beforehand and then start the command. So I'll just do J, enter, and it just runs through the command, and it now made this where this is all one piece. So join can be very beneficial when we look at the offset command in a few videos down the road, but it just can be a useful handy trick for making pieces into just one kind of cohesive line. So again, that's highlight the objects you want, type in the command, J, enter, and now this is all one piece instead of it being 3 individual pieces. Now, one thing to keep in mind with join is that it has to be one pathway. So I can't, for instance, join these hatch lines together with these rectangle lines. So if I highlight all of this and then, excuse me, sorry, I had to sneeze. If I highlight all of this and then go into the join command, so I'll type J, enter, it can't join that because there's too many pathways that it could potentially do with these lines. Furthermore, I can't highlight just these lines and do J, enter, because these lines don't meet. They don't touch each other at any point. So when I ran join after selecting all of this, it was able to join the rectangle back together, but it can't do a join for lines that don't touch, and it can't join when there's multiple potential pathways that something could follow. So it has to be either one complete closed loop. I don't know why it still says I'm hitting escape. There we go. It has to be either one completely closed loop or just one pathway. Once you have multiple pathways in there, you can't join those multiple pathways together. And that is the join and explode tool. There aren't any practices to do with them. It's just something I want you to keep in mind for when you're using tools like offset and array that we'll be learning about in the next videos.